Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Well, good morning, America, and to everybody listening around the world. This is Rich Scheben from Montana sitting in for Vince Finelli while he catches up on some farming. And I want to thank Jason for engineering the program in Minnesota. And our first hour today, we'll have Kathy from Ohio and then Dr. Big Bill Deagle for hour two. And we're going to be talking a lot about this election fraud, especially with Dr. Bill Deagle, because everything in America now is delegitimized. Work, polls, legal elections, economy, big corporations, big government. The list is very long. So maybe we should change the heading to the show, Welcome to the Banana Republic, because obviously the rule of law does not mean anything. And I hear and read a lot of people around the country asking, is Bill Barr paid off? Does he support treason? Where is the Department of Justice? Where is the FBI? You know, when you have an election that's involved in a rigged system where fraud is allowed, everybody in the bottom 93% of income earners will lose. Everybody. To put it a different way, folks, what's happening today in America is that your future has been stolen. And a lot of people are talking about counting the votes. I think we should have a new revote in 10 swing states, because we're going to go through articles a little bit today and definitely when I'm back on the air on Tuesday, and we're going to talk about how there's so much fraud and illegitimate behavior caught on video, using math, whistleblowers, even from the post office coming forth. What we need is a revote, because if they recount what's left, it's going to be illegitimate also, because so many Trump ballots has been tossed in the garbage, has been burned, has been taken away in cars and trucks. It's all documented. You know, it's really amazing to me how people who are bought and paid for, like Chris Wallace, who gets born on third base and tells everybody he hit a home run when his daddy got him a job, he says, there doesn't seem to be any hard evidence of fraud. Well, Donald Trump basically was talking about all this fraud and malevolent behaviors that was going to happen with these mail-in ballots. He predicted all this. There's even a video that's going viral right now on citizenfreepress.com, that is saying that the video is titled, "This video is going viral, but it's not voter fraud." You can't make this stuff up, folks. They're showing people in precincts, literally, with a pen, filling in ballots. You know, I want to remind our listeners of Biden audio and video that I quoted and paraphrased over the past few weeks. Joe Biden was bragging about having the most, quote, most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization, unquote. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up with his articles here where Postal Service admits to ballot errors in key states, stolen ballots in car trunk of U.S. Postal Service employee, government postal worker caught with stolen ballots at Canadian border. U.S. news fraud in Pennsylvania. Another U.S. Postal Service whistleblower tells Project Veritas he was ordered to backdate ballots. A 118-year-old dead Detroit man voted for Joe Biden. At least 21,000 dead people on the Pennsylvania voter rolls. Folks, we're beyond 1984 Orwellian nightmare. This is so blatant, so overt, so obvious. This is like a fifth grader caught cheating. There isn't even any creativity here. They literally delegitimized the whole process from beginning to end. Now, on that note, as much as I would like to talk about this, we have a guest here, and Cathy in Ohio. I want to thank you for your patience. And we are living in unprecedented times. And I know you want to talk about pricing and inflation and things like that, but if there's anything that you want to add or comment about regarding all this proven caught fraud on video, including whistleblowers, please go ahead. Cathy?
Thank you, Rich, for having me. Rich, I'm speechless. Big tech, all the censoring, all the YouTube channels that are down, all the people who are being silenced. The Zuckerberg hired people to go into Philadelphia. Just some of the stories that you said. I heard a 170-year-old man voted. Detroit cheering when they took out the poll watchers, putting up cardboard, and the sheriff, a man in Traverse City, he went and volunteered to be a poll watcher, got the training, and when they went down, they couldn't get in. And he said that, well, this guy got in, but he said the people were overwhelmed. Another person said that they called the sheriff to let them in. I think it was Philadelphia. And the sheriff said, I'm not going, and don't call me again. This is unbelievable to me. And Rich, I have people that I know that voted for Biden. And I'm so upset with them right now that, honestly, I don't even know what I could say to them. I'm afraid I will just, they don't understand. I think they're naive. They don't even, when you point out these things to them, it's like they don't believe it. But there's so much fraud. And when Tuesday night came, why is it that all the other states could get it done, and the states that were close, the blue counties, stopped counting? And then all the other states, the blue counties, were counted first, or so it seemed, a lot of them. Now we got Philadelphia, everything's flipping blue. And there's no integrity in the vote system. I don't know where we go from here.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing we need is the rule of law. And because everything's been delegitimized, Cathy, everything is, so many people have been paid off or blackmailed, whether it be with these pedophilia rings or whatever. It seems like but no one cares about the country anymore. Everybody cares only about feathering their own nest and manufacturing the perception of their own self-importance, and mostly self-preservation. You mentioned Zuckerberg. I read an article where he was bribing election judges and poll workers with quote-unquote hazard pay. So we got to ask, is our state legislators paid off too, because they've been awful quiet? And this pertains not just to the presidential race, but there's been a lot of fraud in the Senate race and Congress races too, like John James. He was winning his race, I believe, in Michigan, and they illegitimately frauded him out. I think that's going to be a new Google word. But Google, Facebook, Twitter is trying to control everything. Apple, all the fangs, eliminating free speech, the crimes against the Bill of Rights, Constitution, which is the rule of law, collusion, racketeering, abuse of antitrust, monopoly laws. You know, like Joe Stalin said, he doesn't care about who votes, he cares about who counts the votes. This is why the nation itself is on the ballot. Freedom, liberty, rule of law, everything is at stake. Everything is fixed. Everything is rigged. It's really sad, Cathy. And as much as I want to talk about this, and I will with Dr. Bill Deagle in hour 2, I want to be courteous to your time because I know you prepared some information for today's show for your 1 hour. So please tell me and tell the audience what you would like to discuss today.
Well, Rich, I was doing some price comparisons, kind of going back to see some of the prices that just in the last few months, how much they've gone up. And some of them I have a price book, and I actually started it a long time ago, and it's just a little notebook with the most commonly used things that I've bought. And some of the increases, I kind of went to see, like, the first year that I think I started it was 98, and then through the years I kept adding, and then I kind of compared from like 98 to 09 to right now, and some of the prices that have really jumped, and I guess some of the things that I think maybe we should get while we can get, especially because I think some of them are really going to go up pretty high. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
Okay, well, please go ahead and tell the audience about your research and what you found, and maybe some solutions and remedies that they could use from your idea book. Maybe buying 2 or 3 of one item so they have it in the future. Maybe some of the little things I've talked about, like were bootlaces, shoelaces, and I went out and bought a spool of parachute cord years ago. If I live to 350 years old, I will have bootlaces. So, there's little things that you can do with thinking with foresight. So, Cathy, please go ahead. The microphone is yours.
One of the things that really jumped was razor blades. I went back and I looked at 2009, and these were Gillette razor blades, and they were $5.50 for a 5 count. And now for a 4 count, they're $18. So if you can find some on sale, or let's say sometimes you go to these, like a big lot kind of store, or you can find on eBay, maybe the ones that will fit your razor, that would be something that there again, you could stock up for as much as you can afford because they're not going to go bad. That one really jumped. I mean, just the price of razor blades is really skyrocketed.
Can I put my 2 cents in there, Cathy? I think would make a good solution for the people regarding this topic. What I do, folks, if I go 3-4 days without shaving, which I often do, I'm a hunter, I live in the woods, I live off grid, I will use an electric razor to basically make my beard as short as possible before I use a razor blade, so the dulling of the blade doesn't occur as quickly. And then I use those little brushes that come with the electric razor, and I literally brush out whatever is blocking, like the beard hair in between the blades, and that really helps a lot. Well, Cathy, looks like this segment went real fast. I will give you, I promise, a lot more airtime when we get back. Welcome back to the show, folks. Rich Scheben sitting here and for Vince Finelli, and I am with Cathy from Ohio. And pardon me, Cathy, I'm just overwhelmed with the fact that we are no longer living in America, and that so many people, including the DOJ, the FBI, so many people, Barr, Ray, Durham, Haskell, from the CIA, so many people have literally sold out our country for their own personal benefit. It's just amazing to me when I think of the 1 million+ combat soldiers who have died for our freedoms and liberties. And these people are only concerned about feathering their own nest It's really disappointing. So, Kathy, you were talking about pricing on products, basically the price increases, the inflation. Please go ahead.
Rich, I'd like to make one comment with what you just said. I'm from Polish heritage. My grandfather was in Poland. Oh, it had to have been, he was born probably in the early 1880s. And when he talked very little English, and when we were kids, he would sing in Polish, and he would cry. And we would ask our grandma, we'd say, Grandma, what's Judge, which is Polish for Grandpa, what's Judge crying? And she'd say, well, he's crying about the war. And he was a young man, and that's when Russia came in. The communists came in, took their business, took their land. They forced my grandpa to fight for communism, and he fled to the United States, and he hid in a ship in the cargo area till he got to the United States.
Wow.
And with people that have no clue, I remember this. It was very vivid for me as a child. And with people have no clue what socialism is like, and he used to get upset. Back then, if somebody would say something against America in broken English, he would say, you don't have any idea what communism is like. I was there. And I think that these people that are voting for Biden and for communism or socialism or whoever it is, maybe there's some Republicans that are there too, but anybody that has that bent, if they would just open their eyes and see where we're headed. But anyway, I wanted to just tell that story because I felt like maybe it would help somebody. So,
well, Kathy, thank you for sharing that. And it is, I've heard a lot of those type of stories where people saw the writing on the wall and got out in the nick of time. But we are seeing live time, not just freedoms and liberties and rule of law disintegrate in front of our eyes. We are seeing a USSR Bolshevik Nazi deja vu happening today in America. And with all the articles, with all the videos, with all the whistleblowers, and I don't want to take all your time because I know you prepared for this. There's so much fraud that's proven. You know, you got Christy Wallace on Fox News, whose daddy gave him a job, born on third base, tells everybody how he hit a home run, and he was saying that there's no proof. There's thousands of proof. I've been talking about these election fraud, voter fraud articles for months now, and now they've all come to fruition. It's visible. It's done by math. It's done by ballots. It's done by whistleblowers. There are thousands of examples, and if I had all day, 10 hours, I could not go through all the articles I have. So, Kathy, please continue with your pricing preparedness. And again, I apologize. I'm just a little wound up with what's going on in our country. I just can't believe that so many Americans have sold us out. Please, Kathy, continue with the pricing.
When I looked at bleach back in 2009, it was 69 cents a gallon, and that was at Aldi. Now it's $3 or over $3. So that's something if you can get that on sale, but you can get bleach tablets that are supposed to last longer. So it might not be as cheap, but you might be able to get it, at least have it last a little longer.
Yeah, Kathy, hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vincent Finelli, and I have Kathy in Ohio with us. And Kathy, thanks for your patience for allowing me to go into all these different tangents regarding election fraud, but it seems to be the topic of the week, and I think it'll be the topic of the next couple of months, unfortunately. But you were talking about pricing, about inflation, about how you notice prices are going up on certain products like razor blades. Would you please continue?
I wanted to just at the very end, I'm not sure if the music overran me, but I believe you can buy the bleach tablets, and you can use those if your bleach sits for too long, it loses its effectiveness. So that's something that maybe you can buy and just kind of keep them off to the side in case it gets to the point where you can't get it or it just gets too expensive. The other thing I wanted to mention was I bought some citric acid, and I bought a 10-pound bag, and I'm finding that it's a very good cleaner, and I've been using it along with, there's recipes you can find online and in books, but you can use it in your washing machine, your dishwasher, your coffee maker, your toilet tanks, water softeners. So there's a lot of uses for it. And I would say that that's something to maybe buy a couple bags, big bags of it, put it aside, because it's a cleaner, it's inexpensive, and if we go down this road 5 years, 6 years from now, at least you have that set aside. You know, the price of everything is going up, like even bar soap. When I went and looked in my price book, I get sometimes like a 10-pack at like Sam's or something. And back then it was like $5 or $5.40 for a 24-pack. Well, now it's like $10. And not only that, but you can't always find them. I mean, you can't always find the soap in the store. Like they might have one brand, but I've been there before where the hand soap, it's just gone. So if we go into another shutdown, I would think that if you can stock up on soaps and bleaches and dish soap, none of that stuff will go out of, it have an expiration date. So that's something I would look into. But I just started using the citric acid a few months ago, and I wanted to mention it because it really gets rid of the lime scale and that type of thing that's in your, especially with me, I have a well and I have hard water. So I've noticed a big difference. So I would encourage people to look into that. It has many uses, though. You can use it in canning, too, in place of lemon juice. And when you're doing your tomatoes and certain other foods. So you only need a quarter teaspoon, I believe, for a quart or a pint. It might be a half a teaspoon for a quart. It says right on the container. But it's so cheap. You can buy a 10-pound bag for, I think it was $22, which was pretty reasonable.
Now, are there substitute strategies, Cathy, regarding buying bulk or making your own soap? I know a lot of people who do a little bit of all the above, and they're quite prepared for what might be coming down the pike. Have you ever thought about those ideas?
Yeah, I have never made my own bar soap, but I make my laundry soap. I make my dishwashing detergent. I make a lot of my homemade lotions, and I do homeopathic remedies. I do tinctures. Those are things I think that things you know you're going to need. Like for me, a homeopathic remedy that is probably the most common is called arnica. And it's ARNICA. And it's good for trauma, bruises, pain, surgery. If you bump your knee or, fall down and you got a bruise or you get like a surgery. I mean, it really helps take the pain away. But homeopathic remedies, from what I've learned, one of the women, the health food store that I used to go to, she was a nurse that got out of the medical system and she wanted to do health food stores. She said that the homeopathic remedies don't expire. She said the way that they're formulated, so you could buy 10 of those on little tubes or the little tablet. And because if you're going to buy Tylenol or whatever, which I don't normally use that, but if you have it and you're going to buy it, to me, those expire in a few years. So I'm kind of looking now at long term. So I buy like Cells Naphtha. I use that for making my laundry soap, or I use Castile soap, or I would buy like Arm & Hammer washing soda and borax and baking soda, big bags of, like, if you can buy the 15-pound bags of baking soda. Those are all long-term things that you can make your own soap with that. And you can make your dishwasher detergent with that. Dishwashing detergent is another thing that's really gone high. Those gel packs, for 36 of them at the store, they want $12.50. That's almost 40 cents a little packet every time you do your dishwashing detergent. I don't like the chemicals in it. I like the way I do it. I'll get the recipe at the break. I don't want to misquote anybody, but it's real easy. I think it's borax and washing soda and baking soda, but I'll get the exact recipe when at the break. But I would say your cleaning things, those are things that are long-term. So stock up on any of those that you can, even like Dawn, big things of Dawn that you can get at Costco or Sam's. Why not get 4 or 5 of them and just pack them, stick them away? And those are so much cheaper than buying the little bottle in the grocery store.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned arnica. We have arnica growing here in the Northern Rockies all over the place. It's a very effective salve formula where they use the flowers and the herbs, and it's good for bruises, sprains, ligaments, sore muscles, but it's for external use only. So it does have an asterisk by it. But, yeah, there's a lot of, here in the Northern Rockies, I literally harvest edible and medicinal plants. I mean, that's one of the things that we do here to survive, to live. So it's a fun life, and there's plenty of Plan Bs out there, right, Kathy?
Oh, yeah. I think that you have to plan on doing things yourself and working hard, because I don't know how we're going to survive this. If you don't know how to do things on your own and you're not learning, Vince talks, and you probably have too, a lot about like do-it-yourself books. I mean, who knows what we're going to find on the internet in a few years. They may take all that stuff off too. They may shut down. There may be blackouts. So I would say print your recipes off, or print your information off, or have a book. And at least I'm kind of old-fashioned. I still have like some of my homemade recipes. I just have them on little recipe cards in a little file thing, just in case I can't get online, or I don't know what site I got it at. Sometimes you get it and then you go back to the site and they say you can't be found anymore, or they've taken it down. So I would say stock up on what you can stock up and learn how to do things yourself. There's never a dull moment in my house. I'm always busy making some kind of remedy or some kind of soap, or I'm either canning or finishing up in the garden. I'm still trying to get like my herbs dried. One of the things you can do now, I mean, we haven't really had a super hard frost here. I still have some herbs out there. I don't have time to dry them and take them off. So some of them I throw them in my dehydrator. Some I can put in a paper bag and let them dry. And then in another week or two, when we have our killing frost, I'll go through and I'll strip them all, and I'll put them in food saver containers or food saver bags, or freeze them and break them up in like a blender. But I don't hardly ever have to buy herbs that I grow. So they're so much cheaper. And then I can give them to a lot of my friends too, and my family. So that's something to think about. If you have any herbs left, or you can dry them. Like I just sometimes put oregano in an open box and put it in the garage, and it dries just fine. Or your marjoram or your rosemary. All those, not everything will do as well, but those 3 for sure will do well.
Oh, good advice, Kathy. You mentioned about how we might not be able to count on the internet. I just tried this morning to send some articles to Vince Finelli regarding the video of the pollsters filling out ballots fraudulently, and the powers that be behind the Google, big tech, big corporation, totalitarian, Nazi, tyrannical communist insurrection takeover would not allow me to do that. So censorship, surveillance, propaganda, hoaxes, false flags, lies, gaslighting. We're going to see this on a minute-by-minute example, especially throughout the media and the Internet. Cathy?
Oh, I agree, Vince, and we don't know what's coming in the next few weeks. So there again, if you can buy extra things, one of the things that I have found that's really gone up in price are your bread flours. I like to use like rye flour on certain things and oat flour. Well, not only can I hardly not find it anymore, like I used to be able to get, I think it was a 4-pound bag of rye flour, and I think it was right around $5. Well, now online, if I can even find it, a 3-pound bag is anywhere from $20 to $22 to $30 some dollars. So I've checked like 6 or 7 stores around here, and I can't find it. So I might just have to not to do without, because I'm not going to spend that kind of money right now. So I think if you can just look at your house, look at where you have storage. My basement right now, I have got boxes and things all over, and I just haven't had time because I've been out in the garden so much. But once that's done, I need to go and like reorganize it all. But I just keep buying canned goods and flour and yeast and sugar, things that I can do myself. Butter. They normally run butter on sale right now. So if somebody runs a really good price on it for Thanksgiving, I'll probably buy another 10, 12 pounds of it and just put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. I think we have to think long term how this is going to happen, and if there's any disturbance or they close us down again, all the prices are going to continue to go up. If there's another stimulus package, the prices are going to go up. So I would say just keep buying what you can buy and what you can afford right now.
Well, good advice, Cathy, in Ohio. So we'll be back after this break for the last segment with Cathy. We really appreciate you being here, folks. Welcome back to the show, folks. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vince. And I'm with Cathy in Ohio, and she's talking about pricing. And Cathy, before I hand the microphone over to you for the last segment, I want to say that your story about your grandfather escaping Poland was a great, heartwarming story, how he escaped tyranny, communism, fascism, authoritarian behaviors, basically everything that's bad, a communist insurrection. And I want to remind people with what's happening in America today, for those of you who want to stay in the silent majority, there's no place left to go. If America falls, we are the last stop for freedom. And on that note, Cathy, I know we're in the last few minutes. Again, I appreciate you allowing me to go into the election fraud tangents that I knew I couldn't help from doing. So please continue with any tips that you have in our last few remaining minutes, please.
Oh, Rich, it's absolutely fine. I think it was important. It needed to be said. There's a lot of people that are concerned, and it is the news of the day and the week and probably the next year. And my grandfather was an extremely hardworking man. He farmed, and he had a job, and he worked till he was 75 years old. And he was an incredibly wonderful man, but it's an example that I think I'm going to tell more to people. Maybe I can wake some people up. So thank you for that. The other couple things I wanted to mention was pet food. If you buy the prepackaged, it's really gone up sky high, $60 a bag, $70 a bag for the good stuff. If you can afford it, don't buy the cheap stuff. I cook for I've got a wonderful black lab, and I've cooked for her most of my life. There's recipes online. You can put a big crock pot together, a big stock pot. if you don't have enough, you can always throw an egg or two on top of the dry food. If you have leftovers, I mean, she gets the core of the tomato, the core of the peppers. She waits for it. She loves the fresh produce, but if she's healthier for it. So that's something to think about. Think about your pet's needs in the future. The pet food has really gone up, but you can feed them if you know the proportions, like what proportion of meat and what proportion of vegetables, or maybe a little rice or something, potatoes or something like that. There's all kinds of wonderful recipes online. Bones, raw bones. If you're, I'm not a vet, but my vet told me I can give her raw bones. So that's something to think about too. If you can't get pet food, you can always give them table food as long as you know what type to give them and what proportion. So don't forget about your pet. The other thing, I think that maybe like the personal hygiene items, the toothpaste, the good toothpaste has really gone up. It's doubled in the last probably 15 years based on my price that I have. My husband used the Sensodyne, which is now, even at Costco, which is cheaper for the bigger tube, it's almost $6 a tube. And so you can look and maybe buy that ahead of time. Buy your shampoos and your conditioners, everyday things that you think you're going to need. I guess the personal hygiene and the cleanliness and the food are the things that I think we all would do to survive. I know the canned tuna and the canned chicken, that might be something that's really gone up. I went back and looked at 1999. It was $1.70, and I don't have the brand, but when I compared it to the grocery store that I went to, for a lesser amount, it was $2.40. And that's the other thing. A lot of these, when I go back, I figure it out price per pound or price per ounce. A lot of the sizes have gone down. It's tough to get a 16-ounce box of crackers. They're all 8 ounces, 7 ounces, 5 ounces. But the boxes, it's all, a lot of it's air. They make them look the same, so you think you're getting all these crackers, or you think you're getting the noodles or the packaged food, and whatever it is, whether it's toothpaste or trash bags, the amount's gone down and the price has gone up. But some of them have really tripled in the last 10 years and 20 years. Not everything. Some things have kind of been steady, like milk hasn't gone up. That jumps around where I'm at. I can get it anywhere from $1.29 to $2.50. So,
well, Cathy, I want to thank you for coming on for this hour. I really appreciate it. And real quick, do you think baking soda, I know people who use baking soda for toothpaste, do you think that can have the same efficacy and functionality as regular store-bought toothpaste?
That's what I've heard. I heard if you mix it, I think you just have to be careful not to have anything that's too abrasive.
Yeah. All right, Cathy. Well, listen, I really appreciate you being on today. Happy TGIF. Have a great weekend, and keep talking to people to wake them up, okay?
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to USAPrepares.com. This is Rich Scheben sitting in for Vince Finelli while he's catching up on farming. And I am going to get into more election voter fraud. Now, Dr. Bill Deagle was supposed to be with us, and the engineer just popped in during the break and said he's having a hard time finding him. So I have more than enough to discuss. If he comes in, I would love to get his opinions and his dialogue on this very, very important matter that's going to make or break America as we know it now. So I'm going to start with some of the notes that I've been taking. This is all over the past couple of days. Every article I'm going to mention, all the notes I'm going to mention is over the past couple of days. First, Wisconsin. Biden got over 100% of registered Dems. Now, those of you who do math, I want you to think about this. 7 City of Milwaukee voting wards reported that more than 2020... Think about this. 7 City of Milwaukee voting wards reported more 2020 presidential election votes than registered voters. I just want you to wrap your head around that kind of new math. It screams fraud. 100% of almost 140,000 votes, I read the article, it was like 138,000 change, 100% of those votes, consecutively counted ballots in Michigan, went to Joe Biden. Almost 140,000 in a row. Tell me how that works. Folks, they stopped counting in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and other states. What they are saying, what the powers that be, the Democrat Party who sold out the American people are saying, for you, especially in the swing states, and the red states especially, they're saying that your votes don't count. They're saying they don't give a damn what you say, what you think, what your opinion is. That's exactly what that is. And they're rubbing your nose in it. Hundreds of thousands of votes in those states I just mentioned got dumped in the middle of the night. Some were delivered by cars, some were delivered by trucks. Some ballots were caught on video being taken out, which are most likely Trump votes. There was a water pipe that busted in Georgia, so they stopped voting. And then more recently, Georgia went door to door to change votes, and it's in text. It's in text. It's in text by the powers that be in Georgia saying, don't try to help, and I'm paraphrasing, the Republican votes. Concentrate on the Democrat votes. See, when they say every vote needs to be counted, no. Every vote needs to be verified. It's unbelievable what they really think, how stupid we are. Now, there was a Democrat lawyer who pushed this vote mail in 2020. And President Trump said, and I have one of the articles here somewhere, he nailed it about malevolent, a prediction, if you will. He said this, we all said this on the alternative media, every patriot said this, that there would not be any, the election would be totally fraudulent if we allowed this. Well, of course, when you don't even have to match signatures, when you don't care about postmarks, or they can stamp it, as they're doing in some of these videos at the polling places. And Fox's Wallace says it doesn't seem to be any hard evidence of fraud. There's thousands of evidence of fraud. Thousands. And there was a video on Citizen Free Press I mentioned in the last hour. It's titled, "This Video is Going Viral, but It's Not Voter Fraud." And they show people with a police officer walking by, literally in the polling places, the poll counters, literally filling out ballots. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. A woman in Wayne County, which is Detroit, she discovered a box of ballots that contained 500 ballots from people who were not on the voter rolls. Voter rolls don't mean anything. Hey, have your cat vote, have your dog vote, have your parakeet vote, have one of your dead relatives vote. Doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter. Plus, poll watchers were locked out and windows were blocked in Wayne County. Now, folks, come on. This is like a fifth grade plan. It's so obvious, so blatant, so overt, so illegal. And then 23,000 ballots were found in Philadelphia on the 4th. And they keep coming up in Pennsylvania with more and more found ballots. We have an election rigged, fraudulent system where the little people will lose in every way. To put it differently, your future, America, has been stolen. And this is why I think we need a revote in about 10 swing states, because a recount is going to be illegitimate because they've thrown away so many Trump ballots. You know, there's a Steve Pieczenik came on the alternative media on InfoWars, and he was talking about how ballots have watermarks and other identifiers. So the ballot printing, you can tell which was counterfeit, which was from foreign countries like China, which was done by the DNC, by the deep state, or any other country. I haven't verified that. I don't see any action. I don't see Bill Barr, Durham, Haspel, Ray. I don't see any of these people doing anything. I think we have literally legitimized treason, espionage, fraud, sedition, and it's been sold out to the highest bidder. I saw this graph, which most of you probably, who I know this audience, are big readers and researchers. We all saw this graph where found, and of course, a lot of these words, picture me doing quotes, finger quotes, found ballots, ballot drops, and what we have is a U.S. Postal Service coup, where hundreds of thousands of ballots go into the Democrat side, and not just the presidential race, but Congress and Senate as well, while the Republican side literally stops. The ballot counting literally stops. You can see it on the graph. It's more like whoever put the dollars in, whether they be counterfeit, whether it be favors, whether it be from big tech or big pharma, or the wealthiest people in the world who want to control everything, who have an addiction to power, money, and control, they're getting a vote for each one of their dollars. The big banks, the central banks. See, you don't count every vote. You count every legal, verified vote. How about the videos at 4 a.m. in the morning of coolers and crates and suitcases moving around? We are literally, if Biden wins, even though it's going to be by fraud, total illegitimacy. It's going to be done to hide the corruption, the crimes, the money laundering, the racketeering, the pedophiles. That's what's going to happen. What we need is, if we have registered voters, we got to count down in reverse, maybe use blockchain, while checking off each one of the registered voters, while the registered voter can go online and verify, and there's receipts at both ends. So let's say there's 5 people in a precinct, just for example. Tom, Dick, and Harry, Jane, and Sue. So let's say Tom comes in and votes. Jane comes in and votes. That now, on the rolls, instead of there being 5 registered voters in that precinct, now there is 3. And it has to be controlled at the federal level, the local level, and the state level, and everything needs to jive. When you just print 80 million ballots, and there's no accountability where they go, and the people who are bought and paid for, I mean, I think I mentioned this, I read an article where Zuckerberg was bribing election judges and poll workers and giving them quote-unquote hazard pay. Now, I'm wondering where all these state legislators are. I'm wondering where Bill Barr is. I'm wondering where the FBI and Ray is. I'm wondering what is our country, have all you people at the top just thrown in the towel? Have you given up on our country, on a president who stuck his neck on the line for us, working for $1 a day and being accused of all these coup attempts, all these Russian collusion, Ukraine, the P dossier, the Mueller trial, which cost us taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars at the very least, and yet no one's not even getting hand slapped. No one's going to jail. There's no indictments. And now we have one final coup to end President Trump. I'll tell you something, folks. There's nothing legitimate in America. Work, polls, legal elections, our economy, big corporations, big government. The list goes on and on. Our future has been stolen. We need to do a revote because too many people are literally bought and paid for. So now we're seeing fake polls, fake focus groups. You can see it starting where, quote unquote, the mainstream media and big tech is going to show that the American people want Biden as a president. They're going to show that the Republicans stole the election and delegitimized President Trump, even though these are counterfeit ballots, even though there's videos of people stealing them, changing them. It's truly incredible. President Trump warned about this, and nobody at the top did anything. And it's up to us citizens now. We should expect the government to work for us and not the other way around. Did you hear about Pennsylvania moving ballot machines? They disobeyed a court order for there's supposed to be Republicans and poll watchers being able to view what's going on regarding the authenticity of the ballots and the counting. They literally closed doors, shut windows, and they moved the ballot machines back the back of the room so the poll watchers on the Republican side can't see the fraud. Can't make this stuff up, folks. This is fifth grade desperation, and it's up to the people at the top to call it, because everybody else sees it. We'll be right back after this break. We appreciate you being here. Welcome back to the show, folks. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vince Finelli. And I'm just checking in to be courteous. Dr. Bill Deagle, were you found? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, so I'm going to continue to move on with voter and election fraud information. Folks, can anybody tell me, now I realize I don't have the computer like Vince does to shut down belligerent people if they start doing four-letter words, so this is why I don't accept phone calls especially when I'm interviewing or monologuing. So, that being said, can anybody tell me, figuratively speaking, of course, how come Joe Biden got more votes than Obama and Hillary? Yes, that pause was for effect. How come we have all these dead people voting, non-residents voting, pets voting, illegal immigrants voting? And yes, all this has been found already in this voting period. How come tweets, including by our own President of the United States, legally and lawfully elected, his tweets have to be fact-checked? All of our tweets have to be fact-checked if it's not selling the narrative. But we don't need to fact-check any legitimacy or verification regarding voting ballots. How come 2 Democrat-leading districts in Wisconsin had over 200% voter turnout? Now, those of you who know how to add 2 plus 2 equals 4, I want you to wrap your head around what I just said. 2 Democrat-leading districts in Wisconsin had over 200% voter turnout. Whatever city that may be, Milwaukee, wherever it is, what you need to do is you need to rename your city Fraud City, because they don't care about your intelligence, they don't care about your vote, they don't care about your opinion, they don't care about what you think. Nothing. Nothing means anything anymore. Fraud City. So, why don't we have voter IDs? Why don't postmarks mean something? Why don't signature verifications mean something? Because you can't rig the election. Because everything is controversial, racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theorist with an anti in front of every word, ism, and phobe on the back of every word. And too many people have fallen for this political correct jive. So, I'm going to mention a couple of articles here, and a couple of them I'm going to mention that I mentioned on Tuesday. And you're going to say, and for the last few months on this show, we have been mentioning many articles and much proof about election and voter fraud. And what has the official authorities done? Absolutely nothing. First article, Democrats colluding with CIA to launch intelligence operation that alters voting machine results. Report. And I mentioned this on Tuesday. Dr. Dave Janda at davejanda.com unleashed a bombshell story with huge implications for Tuesday's election. His guest was a former high-level intelligence officer, Lieutenant General Tom McInerney, who warned that the Democrats and the CIA, in case you're wondering why Gina Haskell's not declassifying anything, have put in place a mechanism which can alter the voting results of electronic voting machines in key states like Pennsylvania that will determine the outcome of the election. This covert technology is called Operation Scorecard, and it was built by the CIA to steal elections in targeted countries, now turning against the United States of America. Another article, 5 states where voter fraud might change the presidential election. I mentioned this on Tuesday. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Florida. What has been done, folks? We've talked about this for months. We've given all the evidence. We've spelled it out. What has official authorities done? President Trump fought for us. We have to fight for him. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Rich Scheben sitting in for Vincent Finelli. And welcome to the new America, where hard work, effort, proven results, qualifications, merit, job performance, polls, work, legal elections, economy, big corporations, big government, nothing is legit. Absolutely nothing. Now, I mentioned this earlier in the show when I was interviewing Cathy from Ohio. And again, Cathy, if you're listening, I apologize for transitioning into so much of this election voter fraud, but I just feel it's so important. And I know this is in the rumor stage, and a few alternative media sites have picked it up. But apparently, and this is, again, rumor stage, so don't get excited, there was a sting operation set up by President Trump to basically uncover all the voter fraud by the Democrat Party so we can see with our own eyes from the text, from the videos, from the whistleblowers, etc., from all this, these so-called, quote, mail-in ballots. And yes, I'm using air quotes again. And what President Trump, what you need to do right now is you are literally surrounded by tyrants, by cowards, by un-American totalitarian wannabes. You are surrounded by people who care only about manufacturing the perception of their own self-importance and their own self-preservation and their own pocketbook over the American people. What you need to do, Mr. President, is declassify everything. All the things that we've been asking for from the alternative media. Declassify it all. And you need to hire people who have guts, who are American patriots. Not because of whatever perception has been manufactured. You need to make mass arrests for all these people who have done all these coups against you. And all these pedophile names that were supposed to come out, that your administration said the names were going to come out, like 2 months ago, and we've never seen this. And this way the American people can see that the people on the top, the aristocracy is trying to hide their crimes, and that's why they're taking over the system. And it's just, what a shame about Barr and Durham and Haskell and Ray, and it looks like they've been bought and paid for or blackmailed. Looks like they have signed on to treason and sedition and espionage. And I'm saying this worldwide. That's right. What a shame. What a shame. How easy it is for Americans to sell out their own little people. What a shame. So what I'm going to do is go back into articles. First article, it's a video showing Detroit election workers cheer as GOP election monitors and GOP lawyers are removed from the TCF Center. You can't get more blatant fraud and illegal activity than that. See, the problem is, folks, when you have judges and lawyers bought and paid for, including our own Supreme Court, the word justice needs to be thrown out of the dictionary. So should treason. So should sedition. So should espionage. So should words like controversial, racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theory. All these words mean nothing. Next article. Featured registered Democrats warn of coup against President of the United States. Okay, this is in Philadelphia. A registered Democrat who's an American who realized the Democrat Party has been hijacked by the globalists, by the wealthiest people in the world, is coming forward because he probably doesn't want people knocking on his door giving him forced vaccinations or being tracked or traced or surveilled or censored. And as I mentioned in the last hour with Cathy from Ohio, I tried to cut and paste some articles to send to Vince Finelli when he was done farming this morning. Some of them were videos. They would not, my computer would not allow it. Gmail would not allow it. So the censoring and surveillance is through the roof right now. Next article. Battleground state elections officials refused to explain sudden Biden vote influx. So they were confronted and they wouldn't explain it. They just played dumb. Next article. John James campaign irregularities in Michigan Senate race. Folks, this is not just the presidency. This is the Senate. This is Congress. This is all a systemic, metastasized, cancerous fraud. Next article. 34 counties in Michigan used faulty software program. Okay? Wrap your head around this, folks. 34 counties in Michigan use faulty software program. I just looked at the clock. I'm not going to get through 20% of what I want. I'm going to keep going here. Michigan County removes totals following report of skewed alerts. Colorado passes illegal electoral vote compact. That's code for if you don't live in Denver or Colorado Springs, what you think, what you vote for does not matter. That's what that means. Next article. Georgia Democrats going door to door to fixed flawed ballots. And they're told, quote, to minimize helping Republicans. Well, Chrissy Wallace, I don't know what you're talking about where there's no evidence of fraud because there's thousands of it. Next article. Michigan U.S. Postal Service whistleblower claims late ballots received backdated postmarks. Received backdated postmarks. It doesn't matter. This whole thing is fraud all the way down to its toes. So even postmarks don't matter. We need to have a revote in 10 states, and it has to be done by the citizenry. because official authorities are bought and paid for. They're corrupted. They've sold you out. Next article. William Yellow Spine Barr sending armed federal officers to precincts located to investigate voter fraud. This is called theater, folks. We've been talking about voter and election fraud for months, just like the articles I just mentioned, which I mentioned just a few days ago, and nobody did anything. President Trump warned about it, and we have fraud after fraud after fraud after fraud. Next article. Why does Biden have so many more votes than Democrat senators in the same swing states? I want you to think about that. You're a Democrat and you're checking off, let's say you're checking off Democrat across the board. How can he have more votes than Democrat senators in those swing states? Fraud, fraud, fraud. Next article. Sharpie pens caused Trump Arizona ballots to be invalidated. From what I read, the people at the polls lent Sharpie pens in lieu of ballpoint pens, and it turned out that their ballot was invalidated because it was not a ballpoint pen. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, dead people voting, illegal aliens voting, non-residents voting, pets voting. I mean, it's across the board. Next article. Democrat Pennsylvania officials privately feeding Biden campaign potential 200,000 margin of victory votes. Next article. Biden takes lead in Georgia at 4 a.m. from a plethora of mail-in ballots 3 days after election posted. No evidence, Chrissy? Next article. Wisconsin National Guard to assist in tallying 13,000 misprinted absentee ballots. Next article. 7 kinds of election interference from fraud to censorship. Next article. Voting machines in New York. You're going to love this, New Yorkers, because they don't care what you think. De Blasio and Cuomo don't care what you think. You know those guys put on third base? Thought they hit a home run by their daddies? Voting machines in New York City, polling place broken and completely locked. This is after not only opening 30 minutes late, but they said, don't worry, you can leave your ballot with us and we will scan it for you later. Unquote. Next article. Trump wins highest share of non-white votes since 1960. Well, President Trump, I thought you were a controversial racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, intolerant, violent, hater, conspiracy theorist. What's going on here? How could you get the biggest share of non-white votes since 1960? That doesn't make any sense. I'm being facetious, yes. See, I should have been an actor, but they won't give it. They won't give me an opportunity because I refuse to sell out the American people. I guess that's one of their top qualifications. Next article. Officials overseeing Pennsylvania election openly anti-Trump. They were openly anti-Trump. So much for vetting, right, folks? Next article. Georgia GOP chair describes secret ballot counting by Democrat posted. Secret. Reminds me of that movie Animal House where they had that you're on double secret probation. I mean, they have literally delegitimized this election in thousands of ways. Next article. Man sets fire to 80 Trump ballots. You got to do what you got to do. Unquote. Is there one? I mean, I'm almost with all the fraud that I've just said on this show today. I'm wondering if I can come up with my own a different way of canceling out President Trump votes and fraudulently out of the blue creating Joe Biden votes. I think we've seen it we haven't seen it all because there's thousands of these. But I can't come up with another way. Next article. Judge rejects Trump campaign effort to halt vote count. Next article. Michigan issues non-denial of dead voter rolls. Next article. GOP poll watcher alleges fraud at Detroit ballot counting center. We can go on and on with this, folks, all day. I'll be back for the last segment. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We really appreciate you being here in this crisis time of America. And I want to remind everybody to keep a lookout of this so-called sting operation that was supposedly set up by President Trump regarding watermarks on the ballots. And just with the articles that I've mentioned, the videos that are out there, the whistleblowers that are coming forth, I think there's plenty of information to put a bunch of people in jail and at the very least do a new election. And at the very least in 10 swing states. And it should be done maybe by some type of new technology, whether it be blockchain, but they have to do it in the example I used earlier with the Tom, Dick, and Harry, Jane, and Sue example, where they have a database, X amount of names. All the database goes from federal, state, local, all to the same database. People can see what they voted, who they voted for, at least that particular person. And I'm at the point there's so much corruption, I don't even feel we should have voter anonymity anymore because there's so much voter and election fraud. And I don't think anything matters in America anymore. Absolutely nothing matters. So I'm going to try to rip off a few more articles before the end of the show, which were on the last segment. Republicans ask federal judge to throw out 127,000 ballots in Houston cast through illegal curbside voting. It's unbelievable. Every way you can think of to create fraud, it's out there. It's unbelievable. Next article. South Carolina federal judge rules signatures don't have to match absentee ballots. I want you to think about that. That's like you going to your copying machine and copying dollar bills and going out and spending it. It's about as counterfeit and illegitimate as you possibly can get. And this is not just happening in the swing states, folks. This is happening all over the country. All over the country. Democrats don't care if they accidentally win or illegitimately win or steal a state. They don't care. They tried it in all of them. Next article. And this was done by James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. Basically, a ballot chaser, and that's in quotes, illegally pressured voters to change vote to Democrat candidate, and they would get a gift. This is on video. You can't even make this stuff up. Next article. Pennsylvania Attorney General declares Trump going to lose. This was before the election. The Pennsylvania Attorney General declared Trump was going to lose. I think that's an admission to fraud right there. Next article. Supreme Court deals double blow to Republicans in Pennsylvania and North Carolina ballot battles. Basically say what that article was about, that whether it be signatures or ballots coming in late or counting votes late, it doesn't matter. That's called fraud. Next article. Investigators stop attempt to register dead people as Democrats in Florida. Well, how many people do you think did register before they stopped them? You can't make this stuff up. I mean, if I was a writer for a new Twilight Zone episode, I could not make this stuff up. It's surreal. It's so fake, so phony, so fraudulent, so illegal. Next article. Thousands of ballots in Pennsylvania may be missing, says officials. Next article. Dead people caught voting in New York City. Imagine my shock. De Blasio. I'm so shocked. Next article. MSNBC says election doesn't end on election day. Well, it's going to look like it's going to take a long time because there's plenty of evidence to show election fraud. And beware of the Biden campaign declaring victory because they don't want this information to come out. You think little old me just, these articles are in the public domain and published. Can you imagine the people who have inside connections, assuming they're legitimate patriots and haven't been bought and paid for? That's a whole different ballgame right there. Next article. Judge rules Governor Newsom violated California Constitution again with June order for mail-in ballots. Who knows if California would have been red? People, keep an eye out for fake polls, fake focus groups, trying to convince the American people that Biden should be president. Keep an eye out. Be prepared for showing that the Republicans stole the election so they can delegitimize President Trump, despite all the evidence that I have. Can you imagine what evidence other people have who have inside connections? It's not over, folks. It's not over. Land of the free and the home of the brave. We need to act like it. Appreciate you being here.